What's up, everyone? I'm Chris Voss. You're listening to the Hustle Inspires Hustle podcast.
What's going on, everyone? This is Quin, and you're listening to the Hustle Inspires Hustle podcast. On today's episode, we have Chris Voss. He was the lead international kidnapping negotiator for the FBI, author of the Wall Street Journal's bestseller, Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as if your life depended on it, and CEO and founder of Black Swan Group, a consulting firm who provides training to Fortune 500 companies through complex negotiations. What's going on, Chris?
Hey, man. Happy to be on. How's everything going with you?
Look, man, everything is fantastic. I'm grateful to have you on here. I'm grateful that we were able to connect. We've been in touch with your team. I want to thank Michelle, my business partner. She's been extremely persistent with your team and reaching out and getting you on the podcast, but not just to get you on the podcast, It's because we're grateful, man. And we're grateful because we learned a shit ton from your book as a team. I have a marketing agency outside of the podcast, and I like to make sure that everybody's on top of their shit, man, and that they know what's going on, that they're reading the right books. We all read the same books together. We take notes, we discuss. And let me tell you how beneficial your book has been for my team, for the negotiations that we've been doing lately. We've been seeing all of the tactics and things that we learned in your book applied in real life and seen how well it has worked. Man, even Michelle was using it on your team, man, on you guys to try and get you on this podcast. And we're so excited, man, that you were able to put all of that experience into something that could help business owners now, right? It's a complete pivot from what you were doing before. So let's talk about where you started off in your career. You grew up in Kansas City. You became a cop, and what happened then? How did it end up getting to FBI?
Yeah, well, let's be fair. I grew up in Iowa. I went from Iowa to Kansas City. Applied for the FBI, and they hired me. Shockingly enough, they hired a bunch of folks when they hired me, so I snuck in with the crowd. Shortly thereafter, I did 2 years in Pittsburgh. Then I was in New York City. I was on a joint terrorist task force in New York City. I'd been on the SWAT team in Pittsburgh, but for physical reasons, a knee that I was busting up too many times, switched from SWAT to negotiation, and then it was off to the races. It was crazy. One thing after another.
So in the book, you mentioned how when you first started getting into negotiations, you tried to get firsthand experience, and you ended up working at a suicide hotline, which gave you a lot of insight and a lot of experience to be able to work with people in the job of negotiations. How was that experience?
Yeah, well, it was awesome. I mean, Crisis Hotline is a masterclass on emotional intelligence. People think that decision-making under crisis is somehow different. It's not. People are still driven by the same considerations. I mean, there's a saying out there, is how you do one thing, it's how you do everything. So how do you make a decision under normal circumstances? You weigh things out the same way in a crisis. So you learn it on a suicide hotline, and it ends up applying to everything else.
Chris, so you did suicide hotline. You got into FBI negotiations. Where did you ever see yourself writing a book? Did you ever see yourself doing what you're doing now? Or was there a specific experience that you had in your FBI career that kind of pivoted you in the direction you're going into now, which is you're an entrepreneur, you're an educator, you're teaching everything that you've learned in order for other people to be able to benefit from it? Was there a catalyst?
No, I never thought the book was going to be that important. I was completely wrong about that. I mean, I figured that if you just started showing that the stuff worked, you didn't have to have a book to prove it to people. I figured if I taught at Harvard, that would be enough. It wasn't. I figured if I taught at Georgetown, that would be enough. It wasn't. I mean, having a book, if you're a consultant, if you're teaching people how to do stuff, having a book is a game-changing moment. We kind of did it in addition to what we were doing, and it was huge. It changed the entire world for us.
So now you have Black Swan Group. You're currently helping a bunch of big businesses close better deals. In the book, you mentioned no deal is better than a bad deal. That stayed with me heavily throughout everything that I do now. Now, every time I'm working on a deal, I'm looking at perfect client traits. I'm looking at, is this going to be a good deal? Is this a deal that my team should get into? But to get back to the point, Black Swan Group, you're running Black Swan Group. You have never split the difference in how many languages now?
It's 30 countries, probably 27 languages, roughly.
So 27 languages. You got 27 different languages of the book. You got Black Swan. You got Brandon, your son, helping you out. You guys are running. You guys are running a solid family operation. I could relate to that. I work with my old man and try to help as much as I can. Very proud of everything that he's done. It must be very exciting for your family and to be able to see all of the great things that are happening around and how many people you guys are helping right now.
Yeah, well, what's kind of cool. I mean, my son Brandon, he really runs a company. I mean, he's turned into a phenomenal executive, and ultimately, his book is going to be how to build a business. And yeah, it's me and him and my daughter-in-law, but the rest of our team are non-family members. We're looking for talent now, and we're really, I suppose by definition it's a family business, but we try to operate it like any other business.
Yeah. So what areas of the business are you guys seeing now that require growth or where you're looking in talent? Because I mean, this is one of the best platforms or podcasting or one of the best platforms to speak what you're looking for, to look for talent. I've been able to hire most of my team on the podcast side and on the agency side through social media, through LinkedIn, through podcasting. They've been able to find out about opportunities. What areas of growth are you guys looking for right now?
Well, we've got our eye on several people already. We real careful. We don't recruit in a typical way.
Okay.
So we're expanding the business in terms of what we're putting out, how we're teaching people and training people. We're moving online like everybody else. We were online some before now, and we see this as a huge opportunity to expand our online offerings.
So today, and I think it's going to be able to, we're going to be able to tie this in great, because today, one of the things that I wanted to concentrate on is obviously bad habits when negotiating in business, things to stay away from, when applying to jobs, when looking to start your own business. What are some things to stay aware of when negotiating? What are some bad habits that people you see usually stick onto, some common denominators that you see in the space?
Well, trying to talk first. That's the biggest problem. Whether or not you're making your case first, whether or not you're making your pitch first, whether or not you're throwing your numbers first. Talking first and talking the most. Talking the most. One of our sayings is, he or she who talks most loses. I mean, you got to gather information from the other side. The cliche that you got two ears and one mouth, you should listen twice as much as you talk. That's a bad ratio. You should the other side should talk 5 times as much as you. I mean, you got eyes, ears, nose. I mean, you got to pick up stuff from the other side on all levels. So, gathering information from the other side by keeping your mouth shut. And keeping your mouth shut is just not waiting for your turn to talk. It's actually paying attention to what the other side's saying.
Yeah. Effective pauses. Silence is powerful. Understand the other side. Show you understand before attempting to get what you want. Labels and mirrors. Let's get a brief breakdown on labels and mirrors. I know this is something that goes around a lot, and a lot of people are implementing it now from your masterclass, from your book, and from the material you'll be putting out.
Yeah, well, labels and mirrors are specific tools to get the other side to talk about the stuff that you want them to talk about in a very unguarded way. Mm-hmm. To get people to open up. Like if you said something that's interested in me and I want you to talk some more about it, instead of saying, what do you mean by that? Or can you tell me more about that? I'll just mirror it. I'll pick up 1 to 3 words of what you said and I'll repeat it. And you'll expand. You'll go on. And I can use that as very surgical application to gently draw the conversation in different directions depending upon what I choose to mirror, what 1 to 3 words I choose to repeat back to you verbatim. And it's like a Jedi mind trick, but I have a tremendous amount of influence on where the conversation goes based on what I mirror.
Yeah. What about labels? I know labels, you could label somebody in a positive way. You could label somebody in a negative way to get 2 black swans. Can you break that down a little bit better for me so I could have a better understanding?
Labels are the greatest information gathering device out there. Like if I need information out of you, most people, we all know that we need information. We think that the best way to get it is to ask questions. That is not a good way. Label is just a verbal observation. I'm gonna use a label to draw you out. One of our clients refers to labels as unlocking the floodgates of truth telling. I need to get you to spill the beans. I need you gushing about stuff. And I need you to not feel interrogated, to not feel like I'm asking you questions, because your guard's going to go up as soon as I start asking questions. So the labels are kind of like the MacGyver. I don't even know if people even know who MacGyver is. MacGyver was a TV show guy that could make tools out of anything. He could defuse a bomb with a ballpoint pen. He did crazy stuff with tools. The labels are the MacGyver tool of negotiations.
Now, minimal encouragers, this has been really cool for me in conversation. And I used to do it before without really thinking that it was a thing. Let's break down minimal encouragers real quick.
Well, minimal encouragers is a thing that a lot of people do to make it look like they're listening when they're not. Somebody goes, yeah, okay, all that kind of stuff. Now, the other side finds it very encouraging. A lot of people do it because they've discovered the other guy will keep talking. I make these little sounds. I'll keep talking. My mind can wander. They encourage people to talk. You should be paying attention while they're talking. It should not be an excuse for your mind to wander. So they're a really effective tool as long as you're actually paying attention.
So we're having a conversation with somebody in business. We're having a conversation with somebody in general. We benefit from using labels and mirrors in the conversation. Once the person starts opening up and starts giving you information because you're allowing them to talk and you're allowing them to vocalize the things that are on their mind, you continue the conversation with minimal encouragers. But the ultimate and the end goal, I'd say, would be to reveal as many black swans as you can in order for you to give yourself a good business deal. And I do this right now in my advertising deals. When I close a deal with a client that I'm trying to do advertising for and trying to make money for them, I'm trying to figure out as much as they can about the business and how it's operating in order for me to put a really good deal together. But in order to do so, I must understand. I must shut up. I must listen. I shouldn't talk more than I need to, but I should listen to what problems they have so I could be a vehicle to solve those problems through the use of black swans. So let's break down black swans a little bit.
Well, black swans are the pieces of information that change everything. They're usually tiny, innocuous things. Sometimes they're big things, but they're always there. I mean, this is the biggest mistake that most people make. They go into a negotiation thinking they have the information. Either they've done a lot of research or they have experience in the area or it's somebody they've talked to. I mean, the worst assumption you could possibly make in a negotiation is that you're fully informed. You're just not.
Yeah.
And also the really important stuff is stuff the other side is only going to be able to tell you. You're not going to be able to find it with your research. Or if you could find it on research, it might take you a month. You get it out of the other side in 10 minutes of conversation. What makes more sense, to spend a month to find something out or to spend 10 minutes? Look, if I was your boss, I don't need you spinning your wheels for a month on something that you should have accomplished in 10 minutes. You didn't accomplish it in 10 minutes because you were embarrassed that you didn't know. So you're going to blow a month of your precious time when you could have gone to the table and found out. I mean, it's always there. It's always there. So go to the table and start gathering information so you can get smarter, quicker. I mean, this is the definition of don't work harder, work smarter.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do as a team, so let's say we'll go and we'll have a client meeting, right? We'll meet with a prospect. There will be the person that's listening and writing notes down. And then there's the person that will be continuing the conversation to get as much information as we can to put a good deal together for the person. But it's not just to put a good deal together for the person, it's to put a good deal together for yourself. Because as a businessman, as a businesswoman, you need to align yourself with people who understand what you bring to the table, who value what you bring to the table, who in some aspects share certain values in order for you guys to be successful. And that's why what I mentioned before, no deal is better than a bad deal, really stuck with me. But sometimes people find themselves maybe not in a bad deal, but in a difficult situation, right? Their client is upset, their partner is upset. And there's ways to diffuse that. There's ways to work on that. And I know accusations audits could be very beneficial in areas like this. Why don't we break that down?
Yeah, well, accusations audits is just dealing with the negatives, dealing with the problems, dealing with the issues, dealing with perceptions from the other side. And it's huge. I mean, it's massive because we're driven by avoidance of the negative or an inability to deal with the negative or concern about losses. So the first thing to demonstrate understanding is simply articulate, what the other side's issues are. It's not to try to argue them out of it, or it's not to try to contradict it. It's to simply recognize it. This whole issue on recognition, it sounds useless, and it is so powerful. So recognition of the problems helps people clear their heads.
It does. And it helps you understand what's bothering the other person. Maybe there's something, because like you said, you go into things thinking that but there's so many things you don't know. There's so many variables in life and communications and relationships and business that you simply don't know everything. Nobody knows anything. And keeping an open mind is very important for these types of relationships. And also, it's not always what you say, it's also how you say it. So that leads me into not using why questions. That leads me into late night FM DJ voice. Let's talk about not using why questions. You mentioned in the book using why questions could tend to bring people's guard up because they may think that you're questioning them in some way or questioning their decision. There's a better way to phrase a question.
Yeah, well, the crazy thing about the question why, like when somebody asks it, they don't always mean that the other side is wrong. But when you do think you're wrong, you always say, why did you do that? Somebody asks you, why did you do that? If you need to go to Vegas and bet whether or not they thought you made a mistake, you better be betting that they do. Because when someone thinks you're wrong, they always say to you, why did you do that? Why did you make that choice? Why did you do whatever it is what you did? That happens to us enough that whenever somebody asks us why, we think that they're accusing us of being wrong. And it's happened to us enough times that we react that way every time. So you can't ask somebody why without them feeling like they're accused of doing something wrong, which by definition is not good for your relationship. You don't enhance a relationship with somebody by pointing out their mistakes or accusing them of making a mistake. It always makes it worse. And that's why the word why is, it's just, it's a guarantee to cause a deterioration in a relationship when you ask the other side.
So in this specific case, our alternative would be using calibrated, open-ended how or what questions, correct?
Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to switch from why to what. I could say, why'd you put that sign up on the wall behind you? And you'd be like, holy cow, what's wrong with my sign? But if I said, what made you put that sign up behind you? You go like, and you turn around, you look at it and you go, well, this is what made me put it up there. The switch from why to what is just huge. And it's so subtle, but it keeps people from feeling accused.
So this is what I usually do. I'll usually read a book. I'll learn some great things from it. And one of the things I see most people do is they'll read the book, but they'll just read the book to feel accomplished that they read a book, but they don't put things into action, right? Or they'll ask for advice and they won't put things into action. They'll just opinion shop, as you like to put it, right? They'll be opinion shopping, but they won't actually take action. What are your thoughts on opinion shopping?
It's horrible. I mean, but it's a sign of laziness. Why are you opinion shopping? You got one or two reasons why you opinion shop. You just don't know, and you're trying to gather a lot of information, or you're shopping for somebody who's going to tell you to do what you already wanted to do anyway. Now, let's go to the one that you just don't know. Here's how to hack that process. Never take advice from anybody you wouldn't trade places. Don't go to everybody. Don't go to me and ask, don't go to Chris Voss and ask Chris Voss how to be a great power lifter. Because I'm not a power lifter, and you wouldn't trade places with me in regards to powerlifting. Don't go to Chris Voss and say, how can I be a great marathon runner? Chris Voss is not a marathon runner. I do not have a demonstrated expertise in that area. If you want to be a marathon runner, you wouldn't trade places with me. I got a bad knee. You do want to go to Chris Voss if you want to be a better negotiator. because I got a track record. You might trade places with me based on my track record as a negotiator. So never take advice from somebody you wouldn't trade places with. If they are doing successfully what you want to do, go to them for advice and take it. Don't go anywhere else. Don't go to your mom. I'm in a lift in LA probably about a year ago. Guy had this great booming voice. And he's like, yeah, my mom says I should do voiceovers. Now, I know how hard it is to do voiceovers. That's a lot of work. A good voiceover artist has spent years getting good at it, but it looks easy. And I remember I said to this guy, all right, so this is going to sound harsh. Your mother loves you. He said, is your mother a professional voiceover artist? He goes, no. And I go, your mother loves you. She's got your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what she's talking about. Never take advice from somebody you wouldn't trade places with. If your mom's a professional voiceover artist and she's going to tell you to go into it, now you could talk about it with her. She loves you. She's very well-intentioned. You might need to be a professional voiceover artist. Go to a voiceover artist and ask them about it. Don't take your mom's advice that you should do it. Go to a voiceover artist, somebody you trade places with. Now, you don't got opinion shop. Do a little performance shopping. Mm-hmm. If their performance backs it up, then take their advice.
Is there anybody that really was one of those big support systems for you coming up in the FBI and becoming the negotiator you are today?
Well, and that's exactly it, because everybody's looking for mentors, right?
Yeah.
And so I had unofficial mentors, and one of them is exactly in the scenario that we're talking about. I wanted to be on the hostage negotiation team. So who do I go to for advice? The woman who's running the team. And I said, I want to be a hostage negotiator. And she asked me what my credentials were, what my resume was, and I was utterly lacking. And she said, go away. And I said, no, I don't want to go away. She said, I don't care. Everybody wants to do this. It looks easy. It sounds simple. And it ain't. And so I said, well, there's got to be something I could do. I'm asking her for advice. She says, all right, there is. Go volunteer on a suicide hotline. Now, until you've done that, stop bothering me. Now, when I revisited this just about 2 years ago with Amy, she said, I told 1,000 people I gave 1,000 people that advice. And of those 1,000 people, 2 of you did it. So I went to somebody that I would trade places with. I asked for advice and I followed it. What happened? She became my mentor.
Yeah.
Because I followed her advice. I was smart enough to ask the right person who was also in a position to give me good advice and also in a position to help me while I was implementing that advice. Because I'm in a position to make her look good and also to make her look bad if I take her advice and it doesn't work out. So she's got a vested interest in looking out for me now. I never said, hey, mentor me. She would have told me, I don't got time for you, kid, go away. I wasn't looking for a mentor, but I, in fact, recruited a mentor by taking advice from somebody who knew what they were talking about.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's like, I wanted to be a surgeon, right? That was my thing. And it didn't end up working for me because of an injury. So it's funny that you mentioned what you mentioned about your knee. I wanted to be a surgeon. It was my dream to be a surgeon. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to save lives. But I had fractured my knuckles on my left hand, and I never did physical therapy because I thought that I was going to be okay. I didn't listen to my mom, my dad, the doctor, whatever. I was a young kid. I wasn't paying attention, right? So my life completely shifts from me wanting to be a doctor to all of a sudden I'm finding myself in the business world and the advertising world. And all of a sudden that develops into me building a marketing agency. And now I have the opportunity to interview people on the podcast to spread knowledge to the world. But you never really know where things are going to go. I'm sure you didn't think back then, I'm going to write a book in 20-something languages, and I'm going to be running Black Swan, and I'm going to be on Masterclass, and I'm going to be on all these podcasts, and I'm going to be scaling like this. You probably didn't even think that all of those things would happen, but you gave yourself the opportunity, and you acted on those actions and on those little things. It's the little things. And my football coach in college in high school used to tell me that. It's the little things. It was that little thing of you saying, all right, maybe I don't have the credentials to work with you right now as a negotiator, but you know what? I'm going to go work at a suicide hotline, and you better believe that I'm going to be back and then I'm going to ask for an opportunity, because you will remember me and you will know that I followed your advice and will have a vested interest in my success to some degree. So, Chris, you have been extremely, extremely helpful to my team, to our growth as a business over the last year. We appreciate the work that you put out. We support the work that you put out. Keep doing your thing. We're extremely happy for you and everything that you're doing. We're rooting for you on this end at Hustle Inspires Hustle. Thanks for being on, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, why don't we tell people about my newsletter?
Let's talk about it.
All right, cool. So, and this is a great supplement to the book. A lot of people get a long way with just the book, Never Split the Difference, and the newsletter. Now, the newsletter's free. Newsletter comes out every Tuesday morning. It's complimentary. It's a good price. It's free. It's concise and it's actionable. All you got to do to sign up, real simple sign up to get it emailed to you. Send a text, Black Swan Method. Those are the words, Black Swan Method. Send it to the number 33777. That's 33777. Black Swan Method, lowercase, spaces between the words. You send it out right, you get an email, text message back asking for your email. Now, it's concise, it's simple, it's actionable. It comes to your inbox Tuesday morning. After you get past the Monday morning blues, you're rocking and rolling on Tuesday morning. The newsletter is also the gateway to the website. It's a gateway to our free trainings. We got a ton of stuff on our website that's free. The newsletter will take you there when you click on whatever the article, the one and only article in each newsletter, because you don't have a lot of choices. We're not trying to waste your time. Take you to the website. There's a library of past newsletter articles, whatever you're dealing with. You can find an article specifically designed for your circumstance. And then once you're on the website, it's a buffet, man. It's just all kinds of stuff, a lot of free stuff to help you get better. And then when the time comes and you want to dial into some of our online training that we charge for, you're ready to go.
Guys, and the online training must be amazing. I saw a taste of it at Masterclass. I can only imagine what you're creating yourself and putting yourself together for your community. So guys, you heard it. That's Black Swan Method to 33777. Is that correct, Chris?
Correct. Yeah, you got it exactly right.
Alrighty, guys. This is Alex Quin, Chris Voss, Hustle Inspires Hustle podcast. See you on the next episode.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Hustle Inspires Hustle podcast. I'd appreciate it if you could share, leave a review, and subscribe to the show.